It's just after 3 a.m. when 29-year-old Shannon Johnson wakes to a stranger in her bed.
He tried to get between my legs, and I'm thinking, okay, if I let him go through with this and he kills me, what's he gonna do to my daughter? So it was just like a snap instance to grab the knife. And I grabbed it with this hand by the blade, and then we started fighting. We struggled for a minute, maybe even less than a minute. He stops, he pulls up his pants, and he takes off running out the door.
Johnson dials 911. The scene is all too familiar for police. 12 days earlier, a woman in the same apartment complex on Crafty Drive was attacked.
I knew he was African American. I knew that he had close-cut hair. I knew that he was taller than me.
Johnson's attacker matches a description given in the earlier assault. Investigators, however, have no suspects and nothing else to move on. Meanwhile, a rapist has his eyes on Crafty Drive, waiting for another woman and another opportunity. It's just past 3 a.m. when 56-year-old Terry Poe wakes up to a man on top of her.
I don't know if he kneed me or he hit me in the stomach, but he just doubled me up and he said, "I'm going to rape you."
The man pushes Poe down on the couch and presses the blade to her throat.
On the beginning, he was just cut it enough to let you know he would cut you. Just enough that you could feel the blood trickling, you know. He ripped the buttons off my pajamas, he ripped my pajamas off, and he was on me. I'm trying to do what he said. I knew I couldn't get away. I knew I was pinned.
The man rapes Poe repeatedly, slips out the back door, and into the night.
I was asked to respond as an evidence technician detective to the address of 5102 Crafty Drive.
Detective Larry Carroll arrives on scene and immediately recognizes the work of a man police are calling the Crafty Drive rapist.
The suspect description also was the same in all of these crimes. And the Jefferson County Police certainly felt that they had a serial rapist in this area that was operating.
Just as quickly as the attack started, however, they abruptly stop.
What happened to the perpetrator? Essentially, were they incarcerated somewhere else? Did they move to another state? What caused these attacks to actually cease? It was very frustrating, very, very frustrating, because we felt that we had a serial rapist.
A serial rapist who has suddenly gone quiet and will remain that way for months. Detective Dwayne Colbank works robbery for the Louisville Metro Police Department. In the fall of 1998, he investigates 2 BP gas station rapes. DNA testing confirms the attacks are the work of one man, dubbed by investigators the BP oil rapist. Colbank, however, thinks there could be further connections, that the BP oil rapist might also be good for the rapes on Crafty Drive.
We were pretty confident that it was the same individual. Close proximity, 4 miles. You really don't have that many serial stranger rapes.
There had been a sexual assault at Churchill Park Apartments.
Detective Duncan gets called out to the scene.
The victim was terrorized by a sexual predator in essentially every manner possible.
Early on, Duncan believes the assault to be the work of the suspected serial rapist. About 15 minutes into processing the scene, Duncan's suspicions are confirmed.
The boyfriend of the victim walks up to me and hands me his cell phone and said, "He's on the line." And of course I asked who's on the line, and he said, "The guy that did it." He, in graphic terms, described to me what he had done during that last sexual assault. And I said, "Why would you do something like this?" And he said, "It's just something that I do."
After 13 minutes on the line, the suspect abruptly hangs up. Duncan heads back to the police department, thinking about his conversation with the suspected rapist and taking with him his best piece of evidence, the suspect's point of entry. a living room screen and window frame.
At the first location that I dusted, two of the most beautiful prints that you've ever seen came up. I knew that this was my man's print. This was the serial rapist's fingerprint.
The print is run through APHIS without a match. Detective Duncan, however, is not finished. Along with the cell phone, the serial rapist took his latest victim's ATM card.
So he used that card 24 times up and down Bardstown Road here in our city, and we captured a number or a variety of images of him using the card. The perpetrator is about to use the victim's ATM card at a bank parking lot.
Within the hour, these images are plastered on newspapers and TV screens across Louisville.
Personally, I was 100% confident that someone would identify him because the images was too good, the shirt was too unique for somebody not to recognize him.
The next day, an anonymous tipster tells police the man on TV is Daniel Cummings, a local with a history of felony offenses. Although his prints did not hit in APHIS, Cummings' fingerprint card is in the local police files. Examiners compare it to the unknown latent.
It was like, Larry, Larry, Larry. Perfect match, Daniel Gene Cummings. This is the man.
2 on Crafty Drive that we talked about, you admit that you did those, true? Yes, sir.
It was very difficult for me because he was such a despicable character to be gentle like I try to be with most of the questioning. So it was a hardcore questioning, hard targeting questioning that went on.
And you entered ground level apartments?
Yes, sir.
Armed yourself with the knives?
Yes, sir.
I'm sitting across from a monster. This is an absolute monster who has terrified and ruined people's lives.
Assaulted and raped the resident inside both of those apartments, isn't that
Yes,
true?
sir.
I think that was a feeling of almost euphoria, going from invoking the rights to now he's talking again.
Cummings implicates himself in 11 of the 14 assaults he is suspected of. Subsequent DNA testing bolsters the confession, linking Cummings to 5 of the attacks. On the morning of his trial, Cummings pleads guilty to 53 felony counts of rape and robbery.
Commonwealth sentences you to 10 years on rape in the first degree, 10 years.
At sentencing, the judge reads each count and the corresponding term of years.
10 years on each of 3 counts of sodomy in the first degree. 10 years on each of 4 counts of robbery in the first degree.
The process takes 3 full minutes.
The only comfort that some of these victims are ever going to get relative to this is knowing that the perpetrator is serving a 470-year sentence in prison. It is some comfort for these victims, and I was very blessed to be a part of the case and be able to help these ladies.